So still now, whoever joins as participants now won't be able to see this. You have to click broadcast to start. Not now, don't click now. Don't click only at 11. Now whoever is joining as admin, whoever with the participant listing, they can only join the meeting now. That's why the advantage of panelist. So before audience join, you all can discuss what is happening, what is not happening, and everything.
Oh, inge join panna inge click panna po.
When you want everyone to see, all the registration participants who to see, you have to click. You have to click broadcast. It's the same thing like Go Live.
Okay. இப்போ இதல broadcast போயிட்டு YouTubeல போய் கூட
ஃபர்ஸ்ட் இந்த broadcast போயிட்டு கொஞ்சம் வெயிட் பண்ணா அப்புறம் Go Live.
இது ஹாட் ஸ்கிரீன் போட்டுட்டா கோமலவல்லி நம்ம பண்ணிட்டோம்
headphones. You want to know பண்ணிட்டா
இன்ஸ்ட்ரக்ஷன் ஏதாவது இருந்ததுன்னா இது ராங்கா போட்டுக்கணும் அந்த இயர் இல்லையோ இந்த இயர் செட் ஆகலையோ நான் இந்த இயர்ல போட்டுக்கிறேன் தெரியல நீ ரைட்ல போட்டா நான் லெஃப்ட்ல போட்டுக்கிறேன் இப்போ கரெக்டா இருக்கும் ஹலோ மேம் ஹலோ Hello, ma'am. Hello.
Click participants here. Click participants here. So she is not connected her audio at all. Okay, so she didn't connect her audio.
Why her audio is not connected? The program record ஆயிட்டுருக்கா இல்ல ஆமா இப்போ ரெக்கார்ட் ஆரம்பிச்சிச்சவா அது ஆட்டோமேட்டிக் கனெக்ட் ஆகுது ஆடியோ கிளிக் பண்ணதா ஆகும் சார்
how many times have you joined from
I know but ಇದನ್ನ ಕಟ್ ಕೊಡತ್ತ ಕೇಳ್ಕೊಂಡು ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಕಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ
no ma if you join the audio and then you are mute it might kind of come as cut. If you don't even join audio, okay, first thing is always
அவங்க பண்ணிடுறோம் என்ன தெரியும்
ரீட்டா கேக்குதா? ரீட்டா கேக்குதா? அனிதா கேக்குதா? அனிதா அனிதா
மேம் கேக்குது மேம் கேக்குதுங்க.
கேக்குது. ஓகே ஓகே. என்னமா?
ஐயோ இதை இப்போ திருப்பி மாத்த முடியாது இப்போ.
No, what she's some other email address. No, what is her some other email address? Then give it to me. Tell it to me. Send it to me WhatsApp.
எனக்கு அனுப்புங்கம்மா, எனக்கு அனுப்புங்கம்மா. சரி ஓகே, அனுப்புங்கம்மா, எனக்கு மெயில் ஐடி அனுப்புங்க. நாளையிலும் கேட்டேன். Ma'am, good morning, ma'am. Good morning, Subha.
Good morning, Pa. Good morning.
சுபா, குட் மார்னிங் சுபா.
Good morning, கோமலவல்லி.
வாங்க வீடியோல வாங்க, ஃபேஸ் காமிங்க.
வீடியோல எல்லாம் வர மாட்டேன்.
வாங்க பாக்கலாம்.
எல்லாரும் தான் வரணும் இன்னைக்கு வீடியோல, இன்னைக்கு நாளைக்கும்.
இன்னைக்குலாம் நான் வர மாட்டேன், நாளைக்கு வரேன்.
சுரேஷ் அனுப்பிச்சிட்டேன்.
யாருமே இல்ல.
மஃப்டில இருக்கேன்.
ஆயிக்கா சொல்லுங்க.
அம்மா இருங்க.
யாருமே இல்ல, மேல ஒரு ஷால் போடுங்க.
சும்மா இருங்க. பாப்பா நாளைக்கு பாப்பா, நாளைக்கு பாப்பா. ஓகே ஓகே ஓகே. நைஸ் நைஸ்.
இன்னைக்கு வரணும் சுபா எல்லாரும் நம்ம எல்லாம்.
அப்படியா? நாங்க பேசல, நாளைக்கு தானே நாங்க.
ஆமா, நான் கூட தான் பேசல, ஆனாலும் நாங்க வந்துட்டோம்ல.
நீ ஆர்கனைசர்,
எல்லாரையும் பார்க்கணும்ல.
ஆர்கனைசர். நைஸ் டு see all of you. அனிதா நல்லா இருக்கு, அழகா.
அப்படியாமா?
ஏய், என்ன ரெண்டு பேரும் பக்கத்துல உட்கார்ந்திருக்கீங்க?
ரீட்டா மேம் வீட்ல இருக்கேன் மேம்.
அப்படியா? ஓ, ரீட்டா தான் பக்கத்துல இருக்காங்களா? சரி. சூரஜ் வேற இருக்காரு இல்ல?
ஆமாங்க மேம். மெயின் ஹோஸ்டே அவர்தான்.
அதான் பார்த்தேன்.
பிரின்சிபல் மேம் வந்துட்டாங்களா? மேம் வணக்கம் மேம்.
கனெக்ட் அதே மாதிரி பண்றாங்கம்மா. அவங்க ஆடியோ வெளியே கனெக்ட் பண்ணலாமா? இல்ல மேம், ஆடியோ கனெக்ட் ஆகிதான் இருக்குல்ல. இல்ல அது இல்லையே, பைக் சிம்பிளே இல்லையே. அது எல்லாருமே ஆடியோ லிங்க் பண்ணுங்க மேம். ஒரு மாதிரி மைக் மாதிரி ஒன்று இருக்கும் மேம், அதுல வந்து அது கொஞ்சம் உள்ள அது வச்சு மைக். அனிதா இருக்காங்க. எஸ் மேம். குட் மார்னிங் மேம். குட் மார்னிங் மேம். இல்லையா மேம், வரலையா மேம். சைட்ல ஒரு காதுல போடுற ஹெட்போன் மாதிரி இருக்கும்.
மேம் வணக்கம். மேம் வணக்கம் மேம்.
கேக்குதா?
கேக்குது மேம், கேக்குது, நல்லா கேக்குது மேம். கேக்குது மேம், நல்லா கேக்குது மேம். வணக்கம் மேம். மேம் ஃபேஸ் இருக்கா இருக்கு.
வந்துட்டீங்க மேம், வந்துட்டீங்க.
ஃபேஸ்ல அடிக்கிற மாதிரி இருங்க மேம். எஸ் மேம்.
அது லைட் வந்து பின்னாடி இருந்து வந்தது ரூம்ல. இப்ப தெரியுதா?
எஸ் மேம். இப்ப கிளியரா தெரியுது. சார் வந்துட்டாருமா. ரீட்டா சார் வந்துட்டாரு. ரீட்டா
அவர் ஆடியோ ஆஃப் பண்ணிருக்காங்க. அவர் பேச மாட்டா, கேட்பாரு.
சார் வந்துட்டாருமா.
குட் மார்னிங் சார்.
Ma'am, good morning, ma'am.
குட் மார்னிங்
சார் குட் மார்னிங் சார்.
Yes. Good morning, doctor. Good morning.
குட் மார்னிங் சார்.
Our time here is afternoon, so I have to wish you all also good afternoon.
Oh, good afternoon there.
So I can share my screen already, doctor?
Yes sir, yes sir.
All right. Okay. Good.
1 second sir. ரீட்டா ஷேர் பண்றாமான்னு கேக்குறாரு பாரு ரீட்டா அவரு ஸ்கிரீன். ஹலோ ரீட்டா,
ஷேர் பண்ணலாம்னு கேக்குறாங்க
சார் கேக்குறாரு பாரு.
ஒரு 2 மினிட்ஸ் கழிச்சு
Okay.
சொல்லு சார் கிட்ட சொல்லு.
Sure.
சார் 2 மினிட்ஸ் கழிச்சு சார் நாங்க யூடியூப் ஆரம்பிச்சிடுறோம் சார்.
All right. நான் 2 minutes கழிச்சு நான் ஷேர் பண்றேன்.
சரி.
ஏமாத்து.
சார் குட் ஆஃப்டர்நூன் சார், கோமலவல்லி சார். சார் ஒரு இது வெல்கம் அட்ரஸ் முடிச்ச உடனே நம்ம ஸ்கிரீன் வந்து ஷேர் பண்ணலாம் சார். இது ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்கா ஷேர் ஆயிடும் சார்.
Sridevi is the wife of the deceased.
சார் இனாகுரல் ப்ரொசீஜர் ஒன்று இருக்கு சார். அதுக்கப்புறம் சார் நீங்க வந்து ஷேர் பண்ணுங்க சார். சரி சார். தேங்க்யூ. தேங்க்யூ சார். தேங்க்யூ.
CMA number 2507.
கோமலவல்லி
மேம்
கேக்குதா?
கேக்குது மேம், நல்லா கேக்குது மேம்.
ஓகே.
எஸ் மேம்.
ஆடியோ தெரியல இல்ல? சாரி, வீடியோ தெரியல.
எஸ் மேம், வீடியோ வரல மேம். நீங்க வீடியோ ஆஃப் பண்ணிருக்கீங்க மேம். ஆன் பண்ணுங்க மேம். நீங்க டச் பண்ணீங்கனாலே ஆன் ஆயிடும் மேம்.
Good morning, ma'am. Ma'am, good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Nalini.
Good morning, ma'am.
Ma'am. Hello. Can we start, ma'am? Ma'am, ஆரம்பிக்கலாமா மேம்?
வீடியோ வரலையே மேம். வந்துட்டாங்க
மேம். ஆரம்பிக்கலாமா மேம்?
ஓகேவா பாருங்க.
வரீங்க மேம்.
எஸ் மேம், தெரியுறீங்க மேம்.
நளினி மேம், ஆரம்பிக்கலாமா மேம்? ஆரம்பிக்கலாம்.
On behalf of Lady Willington Institute of Advanced Study in Education, I welcome the participants to the two-day international webinar on augmenting higher order thinking. Before we start, I have a few instructions for the participants. Please do post your questions in the chat box. Participants who are viewing the webinar on YouTube are requested to post your questions on the YouTube chat box. Participants are requested to avoid unnecessary chats in the chat box. Attendance on both the days is compulsory. For the participants to get an e-certificate. Thank you. Education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. If the path is beautiful, ask where it leads to. If the destination is beautiful, never mind about the path, just keep walking. These words hold good for none other than our principal ma'am, Dr. M.S. Thillainayagi, convener of the international webinar. Ma'am, I request you to deliver the felicitation. Please, ma'am.
அனைத்து பேராசிரியர் பெருமக்களுக்கும் மலேசியாவில் கல்வியல் பல்கலைக்கழக பேராசிரியர் டாக்டர் பாலமுரளிதர பாலகிருஷ்ணன் அவர்களுக்கும் பங்கேற்பாளர்களுக்கும் எனது அன்பான மாணவ செல்வங்களுக்கும் உலகக்கலந்த வரவேற்பையும் வணக்கத்தையும் தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கிறேன். கொரோனா என்ற இந்த தொற்று அச்சத்தில் உலகமே நுழைந்திருந்தாலும் கூட கல்வியல் உலகம் மட்டும் மலர்ந்தே இருக்கின்றது என்பது மகிழ்ச்சி தருகின்ற ஒன்றாக இருக்கின்றது. இந்த கல்வியல் உலகம் நாளும் தன்னை வளர்த்து கொண்டு இருப்பதனுடன் மாணவ செல்வங்களை கருத்தில் கொண்டு அவர்களையும் பார்த்து எடுக்கவும் வளர்த்து எடுக்கவும் முனைந்து பாடுபட்டுக் கொண்டிருக்கிறது. அதிலும் எங்களுடைய வெலிங்டன் சீமாட்டி கல்வியல் மேம்பாட்டு நிறுவனம் இந்த மாதத்திலேயே இது 2வது பன்னாட்டு கருத்தரங்கத்தை நடத்துகின்றது என்பது மிக மகிழ்ச்சியான ஒன்றாக இருக்கின்றது. நாங்கள் எப்பொழுதும் வகுப்பறையில் நிஜங்களோடையே உறவாடி கொண்டிருந்தோம். நிஜங்களோடு உறவாடிய நாங்கள் தற்போது நிழல்களோடு இந்த இணைய மூலம் உறவாடுகின்றோம். இருந்தாலும் கூட எங்களுடைய எண்ணும் எழுத்தும் கருத்தும் மாணவர்களுடைய நலனே என்பதால்தான் கடல் கடந்தும் இந்த பேராசிரியர்களோடு தொடர்பு கொண்டு இந்த பன்னாட்டு கருத்தரங்கத்தை மிக மகிழ்வோடு முனைப்போடு என்னுடைய பேராசிரியர்கள் நடத்தி கொண்டிருக்கிறார்கள் என்பது எனக்கு மிகவும் மகிழ்ச்சியாக இருக்கிறது. அவர்களை நான் என் உளமாற பாராட்டி மகிழ்கின்றேன். 2வது, இந்த தலைப்பு மிகவும் பொருத்தமான ஒரு தலைப்பு. என்னுடைய மாணவ செல்வங்களினுடைய வளர்ச்சிக்கு Augmenting higher order thinking. நம்முடைய புதுவை கவிஞர் பாரதிதாசன் கூட அறிவினுடைய வளர்ச்சி பற்றி கூறுகின்ற போது அறிவை விரிவு செய் அகண்டமாக்கு என்கிறார். விரிவு செய்தல் அகண்டமாதல் என்பது எல்லாவற்றையும் நாம் கற்றுவிட முடியாது. ஏனால் அவையார் கூட கூறினார், கற்றது கைமண்ணளவு கல்லாதது. நம்முடைய வாழ்நாளில் நாம் மிகப்பெரிய நிறைய புத்தகங்களை படித்து விட முடியாது. ஆனால் கற்கின்ற அதை அகண்டமாக சிந்தனையின் வயப்பட்டு அகண்டமாக்க வேண்டும், ஆழ கால்பட வேண்டும். அதனால் அவர் அறிவை விரிவத்தை அகண்டமாக்க என்கிறார். அதாவது கேட்டல் வழி ஞானம் பெற்றாலும் அல்லது புத்தகங்களை கற்றாலும் எப்படியாயினும் அந்த கற்பது என்பது மனப்பாடமாக இருக்காமல் சிந்திக்க தானும் சிந்திக்க கற்றவர்களோடு உறவாட அளவிடாக இது போன்ற கருத்தரங்கங்களில் கலந்து கொள்ளுவது, நாம் கற்றவற்றை ஒப்பிட்டு பார்ப்பது, நாமே புதிய ஒன்றை உருவாக்குவது, இப்படியாக அறிவு விரிவு அடைய வேண்டும். விரிவு அடைகிற பொழுதுதான் அது ஆழமாக காலத்துக்கும் நிலைத்து நிற்கும், நாம் ஒரு கற்றவர் என்ற நிலையை அடைய முடியும். எனவே இந்த தலைப்பு என்பது கூட சிறப்பான ஒரு தலைப்பு. அதற்காகவும் நான் என்னுடைய அருமையான பேராசிரியர்களை டாக்டர் கீதாராணி மண்டல், டாக்டர் ஹேமலதா கலைமதி, டாக்டர் சுபாஷினி மேடம், டாக்டர் ரமா, டாக்டர் கோமலவல்லி மற்றும் செல்வராஜ், கௌரவ விரிவுரையாளர்கள் அனைவரையுமே மனதாக பாராட்டுகின்றேன். எங்களுடைய வேண்டுகோளை ஏற்று பாட வல்லுநராக வந்துள்ள பேராசிரியர் மலேசிய கல்வியல் பல்கலைக்கழக பேராசிரியர் அவர்களையும் நான் வணங்கி வரவேற்கிறேன். இந்த வாய்ப்பினை அருமையாக பயன்படுத்திக் கொள்ள வேண்டும் என்று மாணவர் செல்வங்களை கேட்டுக்கொண்டு விடைபெறுகிறேன். நன்றி, வணக்கம்.
Thank you, ma'am, for your encouraging words. Small cheer and great welcome makes a merry feast. I request Dr. Hemalata Kalaimati, Assistant Professor of Education Biological Science, to present the welcome address. Please, ma'am.
A warm greetings to all who joined with us today's webinar. It is a great pleasure for me to welcome our respected Principal Madam, Dr. M.S. Thillainagi, the resource person of this day webinar, Mr. Bala Muralidharan Balakrishnan, faculty members of our college, teacher, educators, and all the participants all over the world for this webinar. Lady Wellington Institute of Advanced Study in Education is a prestigious institution started in the year 1922, aims for a systematic plan for education and training. The college functions includes teaching, training, research and development. Everyone in our college has an equal hand behind the success of the college. During doing our extreme to take our college forward. Our college organizes national and international webinars continuously for students to gain knowledge and to be effectively associated with the college. I appreciate the efforts of all the organizers who have working hard to shine in their performance. On behalf of our college, principal, staff and students, I once again welcome you all to attend the webinar. I wish this webinar a successful and enlightened one. I ensure this will be fruitful for every one of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for a smile in the universal welcome. The key to growth is the introduction of higher dimension of consciousness into our awareness. I request Dr. Rita Rani Mandal, the organizing secretary of the webinar, to enlighten us with the theme of the international webinar on augmenting higher order thinking. Please, ma'am.
A warm greetings to one and all. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce the theme of the international webinar on augmenting higher order thinking skills, organized by one of the oldest and prestigious teacher education college, Lady Wellington Institute of Advanced Study in Education, which was established in the year 1922. To begin, I would like to quote the Greek philosopher Socrates. Education is the kindling of a flame and not filling of a vessel, which means that the purpose of education is not to fill the minds of the student with facts, but is to teach them to think. India is the world's youngest country by 2021, with an average age of 29, making it the largest young workforce in the world. It is this workforce that decides the social, economic, and political future of the young democracy. It is imperative that these young minds are taught how to think independently and ask questions rather than to fill their heads with facts. In the 21st century, for being successful, one needs to hone higher order thinking skills. The main objective of the 2 days webinar on augmenting higher order thinking skills is to help us, the teaching fraternity, who are the architects of the future nation and the world, to learn the techniques to make thinking a part and a parcel of our classroom transactions. It is our capacity for thinking that defines us as human. It is this ability of thinking and conceptualization which distinguishes man from most other animals in the animal kingdom. Thinking is much more than what we think it is. And in today's rapidly changing world, it is more critical than ever. For the children living in an age where the mechanical jobs will be immediately replaced by robots and machines, henceforth, creative thinking and problem solving will be essential for them to survive and excel in this competitive world. Today's education system has come under severe criticism for its undue emphasis on memorization of textbooks knowledge by the students. This is also being felt. Educationists want teachers to take efforts and impart knowledge that would infuse the ability to think effectively, as the development of thinking process is the foundation skill of all learning and the fundamental to the development of all other skills. The employers and industries are also looking for people who can apply their learning into new situations across multiple disciplines. So having higher order thinking skills is an absolute must for all of us, as it significantly improves our lives, both personally and professionally. Though development of critical thinking skills is a lifelong endeavor, it must be inculcated from childhood. Therefore, the curriculum must expand to include information and activities that explicitly support students in learning to think well. So, in today's modernized classrooms, students must learn to evaluate information and to be creative and innovative in the problem solving. Using higher order thinking in all subject areas in the classroom or at home will result in students becoming more creative thinkers and better problem solvers. The small effort made by the teachers and parents in enabling a child's thinking process will help the child achieve success and give him an edge. A child who acquires creative thinking will be an adult who prospers and sails through life. I'm sure we are going to have an insightful learning for the next 2 days. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your brief and clear idea about the webinar. Excellence is not a skill, it's an attitude. I request Dr. Hemalata Kalaimati, Assistant Professor of Education Biological Science, to brief about the credentials of our today's resource person, Dr. Balamuralidharan Balakrishnan, Associate Professor, Sultan Idris Education University, Malaysia. Please, ma'am.
I'm happy to reconnect with you to introduce the resource person of today's webinar, Mr. Balamuralidhara Balakrishnan. He secured his doctoral degree from the Multimedia University, Malaysia. He has completed his Bachelor of Engineering and Master of Engineering in Malaysia. Previously, he was working as Senior Lecturer in University, Tunku Abdul Rahman, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Now he is working as Associate Professor in the University of Sultan Irish, Perak, Malaysia. He is very active in his teamwork for many years. He is holding various responsibilities like supervising UG, PG students, conducting research, assisting in the department and university administration tasks. To his credits, he published 3 books. He published more than 25 articles in the journals and conference proceedings. He has got many research grants from various funding agencies like UNESCO, Asia Pacific Foundation Grant, Japan, Malaysia National Commission for UNESCO, and so on. Serving as visiting professor, he is giving special lectures for various universities. He is a reviewer of various journals, committee member for many programs. He received Academic Award 2015, Top Research in Social Science Research 2015, and Research Award from the University Sultan Irish University. Such a dynamic person is with us. I once again welcome you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for introducing the resourceful resource person. Now we hand over the session to our today's resource person, Dr. Balamuralidhara Balakrishnan. Sir, the session is yours. Please, sir.
Yeah, thanks a lot for introducing me. A very good morning to all the participants who attended this workshop today. So I really hope that all of us actually can see the slides. All right. So today's presentation is on the design thinking, a new paradigm for creative and critical thinking. As we know, creative and critical thinking is the main component in higher order thinking skills. This is a fundamental in higher order thinking skills. When someone is trying to be higher order, all right, in their thinking is to be a higher order thinking, all right, he or she has to be creative and a critical thinker as well. And when we put it in the context of education, it is becoming a very important nowadays to have this, since the education are already moving into a new paradigm, a new model. All right. As we can see here that, all right, as in we are trying to go into the 21st century, the students need to have these 21st century skills. All right. So what are the 21st century skills that we are talking here? First of all, it is the communication skill. So we, as an educator or the teaching to the students who are going to be educator, we need to actually so we need to actually emphasize on the communication. That is first. The second one is the collaboration. The third and the fourth is what we are going to talk today is on the creativity and critical thinking. As we are actually emphasizing on communication, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking, it is also good for us to have the character and the citizenship as well. All right. So this is the 6 C's that we are actually discussing about here. But in this particular context of presentation today, we will just look at the creativity and critical thinking. But as an educator, please make sure when you are actually teaching the students in your classroom, this 6 C's has been instilled and infused to the students. As an educator, we also have to change according to the century. Yes, in the 20th century, this is more focused. We are more focused on a teacher-centered education. But nowadays, it is about student-centered. So therefore, we also have our own characteristics that we need to change. So, and at the same time, in this 21st century, there are few characteristics that educators should possess. The first of all is that teacher should teach according to the student's preference. It is no more that you will teach according to your style and the student will follow your style. That is maybe in the 20th century. But when it comes to 21st century, we have to follow what the students really prefer. What is their preferences? What is their learning style? These are the things that we have to understand. So teacher for learning, that means we have to understand how the students learn and how we're going to design an effective learning activities and experiences to that. And at the same time, we are also become a curator, a producer, and also a consumer of appropriate educational resources. Last time, I still remember that our only resources are the books, the textbooks, and the reference books. But nowadays, we already have multiple mediums, multiple platforms that we can use in order for us to consume and at the same time share the information to our students. So social media, for an example, a very basic example that I can give is today's webinar, which has been broadcast through YouTube. So this is a good idea that we can actually have here. And at the same time, as we know, we are using technology today. I'm in Malaysia and all the participants today in India. We are, I think, about 100 or 1,000 miles, a few thousand miles away, but we're still able to communicate, and I'm able to actually give a live video now. So we have to be a technology as well. And at the same time, we are no more working in silo. In the context of today's 21st century, educators cannot work in silo. That means we cannot work as an individual. We have to collaborate among our colleagues, collaborate among the other educators around the world. This is what we have to do. And this particular webinar can be a starting point for Lady Wellington Institute of Advanced Study in Education to spearhead that particular vision. And at the same time, we also have to be a scholar. We also have to do a lot of research. How the other teachers are actually teaching their students, how the other researchers have found any kind of a new pedagogy. All right, so that is one. And at the same time, we have to be experimental. That means we have to try a new learning methods, new learning mechanism should put in the context when it comes to be in the context of 21st century education.
So, sir, excuse me for the interruption.
Yes.
So just your video is not on. I think we are not able to see you.
Is it necessary to see me or the slide?
I think I thought it was a mistake. So I just thought that if you are visible, it would be nice if you would like to see you.
All right.
It's okay, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir.
All right. Good. So now I already on my video, then you can see me. All right. Okay. So my slides is okay. Am I right? Okay. So as we already have this 21st century students, and we also have to embrace the 21st century skills, and we as a teacher, educator, need to actually become someone who can actually able to embrace all these skills and how to develop ourselves to actually go beyond these challenges in 21st century. I think it is important for us to have this creativity and critical mindset. This is what has become an important element now. It is not only about creativity, it is on the students, but at the same time, it is very pivotal for us to know also that creativity should start from the teachers, from the educators as well. So we have to be creative, and we have to be critical in order to produce creative and critical students. So these are the things and an important thing. So why creativity and critical is important? Because as the world is moving very fast, the technologies are moving fast, and we have a few challenges nowadays. One of the big challenges that we are facing is about COVID-19. All right. So in order for us to be creative and critical, it enable us to keep abreast with the development that happens every day. So creativity and critical is an important element now. But however, it is important for us to know how to bring creativity into the classroom, and how we as an educator, is there any way for us to actually to be a creative person? Is there anything that I can do in order to be critical and creative person? So these are the questions that may actually lingering in your mind. But at the same time, we have to know that creativity is something that can be taught and learned. And it needs some kind of a tool or mechanism, or sometimes like a system that we can actually follow. All right. So today I'm going to discuss about that thing. But before that, let me just give what is the creativity and critical in the context of education. Creativity and critical in the context of education means that we as an educator aware a few aspects. One of it is the new methods in the teaching and learning. So we have to know that when we are actually teaching and learning, there is a new methods that is been to be implemented in our classroom. Is it we still using the same chalk and talk, or we already moved a front? All right. So these are the things that we have to consider. And at the same time, in order to be creative and critical, so we have to know that how we can able to connect the ideas to one another. Actually, we as a human being, we have been given a lot of talent. And one of the talent is that we are able to create ideas. So to be creative. So when you are creating some ideas, it means you have become creative. So connecting one idea to another, it's a creativity process. Searching for the ways to integrate the ideas and construct new ones. How you synthesize it. How you synthesize a few ideas. Maybe among your colleagues, you have a problem and you can discuss about that thing. And you can come up with a few ideas to solve the problem. Then you can do that thing. So this is where the creativity and critical process happens. When there is a new problem, the way that we actually approach to solve the problem in a new way, it will be also considered as a creative thinking. And finding originals and feasible solution, and use the mind in a prolific way to initiate and apply new ideas is also under the creativity and critical context. So when we are actually become an educator, we have to know that we have to aware about a few things. And I think that all of us directly or indirectly involved in all these things. But somehow we are not sure whether we are creative enough or not. So these are the things that we have to actually look into when we are actually moving towards these challenges that happens in this 21st century education, and when it comes to the context of creativity and critical thinking here. All right, so what we can do as an educator in order to develop the students' creativity. The first thing that we can do is that to encourage the acquisition of domain of specific knowledge and skills. You have to know that the students not able to be creative if they're not knowledgeable about the domain, or if they're not care about the domain. So it is important for us to expose these domains to the students. Right? That is the first thing. The second thing is that educators must develop their own understanding about the types of creativity they are going to encourage in the classroom. So these are the things that you have to know. And the third one is the good way to help students to learn about creativity is to reveal your own creativity. So that is what I told you just now, is that when in order to make sure that higher order thinking has been achieved, whereby the creativity and critical thinking is there, it is important for us to become the role model. We as a teacher, we as the educator, we need to be the role model for it. So therefore, it is important for us to know, okay, again and again, I'm trying to mention here, creative and critical teacher equivalent to creative and critical students. So that means if you're creative and critical, for sure, okay, maybe there is outliers about 1%. So 99% of the students will be creative and critical also. So this is something that has been proven in many research academic papers. So there is no doubt about that. So it should start with us. But one big question that we are actually having in a problem here is that how do we teach in our classroom? How do actually we encourage creativity and critical thinking in our classroom? So is it we're going to be like this teacher who said, I expect you all to be independent, innovative, critical thinkers who will do exactly as I say. All right. So do we need to be like him? For sure, no. All right. This is something that is detrimental to the higher order thinking that we are talking today. So how to be creative and critical thinker? So as I already told you just now, when we are actually become a creative and critical thinker, we need a tool. We can have, it can be a thought and learn process. All right. Some of us may be a genius. We are born genius, like Albert Einstein is a born genius. It's already embedded. So that higher order thinking in the context of creativity and critical thinking, then it's already be embedded in the DNA. So there is not a problem for Albert Einstein to be a genius. All right. But as a normal human being like me, I need a tool. All right. So today I'm going to talk about that tool actually. So that is what we call as a design thinking. So design thinking, it's a tool for us to use in order to become a user-centered creative and critical thinker. Why I am saying it's a user-centered creative and critical thinker? As we know that when there is a problem that might happen in our classroom learning, maybe in your institution there is a problem, and you will come with ideas to solve it. Most of the time, what we do have is that we will have a meeting. All right, we will have a meeting and we are going to solve a problem. But that particular ideas that thrown in the meeting, basically, usually, all right, it basically and usually it is within the room itself. The ideas will come from the room. And the problem that is being discussed, basically, it's what we experienced or somehow what we heard about the problems. But in design thinking, it is not that. It is that you, as a problem solver, if you want as a problem solver, you will go down. When you go down to the ground and get the real problem. When you get the real problem, then you use that thing in order to solve the problems, to come with the solutions. And the process that happens from the problem to the solution, this is where the creative and critical thinking has happened. So this is the new way of it. But before I dwell into design thinking and its process, let me just give you the history of design thinking. History of design thinking basically started in 1969 by Herbert Simon, who's actually looking from the aspects of science. Then 1973, it's already moving towards engineering. Then in 1980, it's already penetrate to the design industry. So basically, design thinking is used in the industry. Basically, it is used in engineering and design. And in 1990s, early 2000, basically it's been used in management. So most of the companies, okay, big top companies around the world using this design thinking concept for them to come with the solution for the problem. But the solutions here, it is where the creativity and critical thinking comes. All right. But this Institute of Design at Stanford, US, is the one who really started utilizing design thinking in education. All right. So they are using design thinking in education in the few contexts. One is from the educators context, administrators context, at the same time students context. So they are the one, and we appreciate to them also, they are the one actually brought this design thinking concept, and they actually mentioned that how this particular concept can be actually used in the education sector. So we have to thank them basically. So what is design thinking, right? So in recent publications, many publications mention that this design thinking is a tool, it's like a process that has the power to stimulate social competence and drive innovation in organization, social institutions, and most importantly in education. And design thinking refers to the methods and processes for investigating ill-defined and wicked problems, looking for new perspective and solutions. So ill-defined and wicked problems is problems that we not able to solve. We never think about it. And this design thinking enable us to go for it. All right. So bringing a new perspective and a solution. So this is how this particular tool for creativity and critical thinking help us to do that. So those who are actually participating in this webinar, you don't think that design thinking only been used for a certain context. No, it can be used in education in a several contexts. It can be an admin. So I know that the principal today has also involved in our webinar. They can use that. All right, administrators, top administrators, that is one. We as educator, we can use design thinking in order to craft or design our teaching methods, pedagogical strategies. And when it comes to students, they can use this design thinking in order to come with the solutions in their subject matter. So these are the things that we can use basically. All right. And overall, this particular design thinking enables us to become creative and critical thinkers. So how it can do that, we will look on the next slides onwards. So design thinking is understood as a complex thinking process expressing the introduction of design culture and its method. So what it gives, basically design thinking gives us one important thing, that is we become a designer. It makes an educator to have a designer mindset. All right. So we look a certain problem from a designer dimension. That is what design thinking gives us. Design thinking is not only seen as an engine for innovation, but it offers a new models of process and toolkits which help to improve every creative process in multidisciplinary way. So why in a multidisciplinary way? Because nowadays one solution cannot be solved, cannot be solved if thinking from one dimension only. It must be seen from different dimension. So whether it's a technological issue, it must be also, there is a social issue also must be taken into consideration when it comes to this technological issue. So these are the things that we can have here. All right. So what is design thinking? This is what the process of design thinking. It will start with the empathy, then define, then ideation, prototype, and test. So what will happen in each stages? So we are going to look at it. The first one is the empathize. Empathize is where we understand the needs of those you are designing for. Let's say today we are facing the COVID-19, and I think most of us have to teach from home. So are we just going to teach from home using the available technology that we used to have? For example, the Zoom technology or the YouTube social media platform. Is it that? No. Basically, that is just a tool for us to use. But what design thinking actually emphasizes that we need to understand the problem that may be faced by the user. Who's the user? From educator point of view, the user are the students. So we have to actually understand what the student needs, how the students love to learn during this COVID-19 period. So these are the things that we can think about. All right. So this is the empathy process. That means we have to go to the user. We have to go to the stakeholder and ask, what is your problem? What is the real problem? We have to do a lot of empathy process here. Then the second stage is the define, where in this defining thing, the problems that we have actually collected, the data that we collected from the problems will be defined here. That means we have to come with one problem statement, or we're trying to have a clear mind on what is the real problem that happens in the context of the solutions that we are going to actually trying to solve. All right, the issues that we are trying to solve. All right, so define here is that after the empathy process, we are able to get the real picture of the problem. All right, that the students are facing. So what is the usual problem that we used to have when we are actually having a teaching in a teaching during the pandemic COVID-19? Basically, yes, we cannot have a face-to-face teaching. Then we have to substitute it with the usage of technology, online learning. But whether online learning is really useful for the students? So these are the things that this particular process may actually make us to understand. Is it this is what really students want? Is it online learning is really student want? So these are the things that we really can actually make us to understand about that. So this is where the critical process happens. All right, this is where we have to do some kind of a investigation here. So this is where the critical process happens. Then the third stage is the ideation. In this particular stage, this is something that is where you are going to generate range of possible solutions. This is where your creativity skills are coming in here. So what type of idea, what type of a possible solution that you're going to give to the to overcome the issue? Basically, it is all related to the problems that you have identified. So in your idea process, the idea process won't be just ideas that is you just throw whatever ideas that you have. No, the ideas here will be a solid ideas that is you problems that you have actually obtained from the empathy and the define stage. So this is the uniqueness of this. So this is the good thing about using design thinking, whereby in this third stage of ideation, where the creativity comes in, the creativity will comes with something that is a purposeful or something that is a serve the purpose ideas. All right. So that is the third stage. Prototype. If you are an engineer or in a technological background, you may say, oh, prototype is something that I have to, build. No, prototype here, it means you actually try to already design or sketch, or maybe you already have this, the solutions that you have actually, the possible solution that you got from the ideation, you will actually try to come with a simple prototype of the solutions here. So when it comes to in this particular way of this prototype, what I will actually suggest is that you start to actually find out what are the solution, the good solutions, a few range of solutions that can be used to solve that particular issue. So that is where the prototype comes. So you have a few design there. All right. So for an example, let's say we have a problem of teaching and learning during COVID-19. What happened? All right, so we cannot have a face-to-face teaching and learning. So what will happen here is that when it comes to there's no face-to-face, we have to seek for different ways of teaching and learning. So one of it is the usage of technology. So okay, there are multiple ways of using technology. All right, we can have Zoom, we can have social media, we can also have Google Meet, and so on and so forth. So this are the possible solution. So when it comes to prototype, this is where you have to find out which one, all right, that is going to work. Maybe you can try a few of the possible solutions that you have crafted in the ideation process. All right, so you can try. So maybe for this particular week, you can try using Zoom. The next week, you can try the social media. Then from there, this is where the fifth stage, or what we call the test stage, the final stage of design thinking comes, where you collect the feedback that you got it from the Zoom activity, you collect the process that happened in the so-called social media activities. From there, you try to see which one is the best solution to substitute face-to-face teaching and learning. So this is what the design thinking comes here. So where your critical and creative process happen, it happens throughout every stages. And this particular tool, it is an important thing for you because it is something that will drive you to become creative, will drive you to become critical as well. Because as we know, some of us are very creative, but at the same time, when we ask whether your ideas will be implemented or not, it is a very big question mark. Why? Because there is no critical element there. So that is why creativity and critical element should come together. So when you have an idea, please make sure whether that particular idea is possible to be implemented. So these are the things that we have to think about. So these 5 stages are going to give us that. All right, it's going to give us that. And the solution that we're going to have, it is going to be something that is valuable to the user, to the stakeholder. Why? Because the first stage itself, we already empathize. We already know the problems that has been that actually is being going through by the stakeholders. So this is what we call as the purpose, and the solutions are purposeful to the stakeholder. Okay, so let me just give some examples on how we can actually use this design thinking in our context of as an educator, how we can become a creative and critical educator. At the same time, you can bring this particular tool also in your classroom, maybe in the context of problem-based learning. All right, when it comes to problem-based learning, you can use this particular process, so that the students are able to think critically and creatively. Creatively and critically. That is very important. So the first is the creativity, and the second is the critical thinking. So that is very important here. So the creativity and critical must come hand in hand. All right. So what are the things that we already mentioned here? Let me summarize it. So empathy is learning about the audience for whom you are designing. All right. So as an educator, let's say we are designing for to substitute face-to-face interactions. So this is the problem that we have. The second one is to redefine and focusing your question based on the insights that from the empathy stage. That means we come with the real problem statement. We identify what is the real problem. That is the second one. The third one is where the ideation will come. The fourth one, where we start to actually implement it. All right, we start to implement the few solutions there. Let's say you're in your ideation, you have about 10 ideas, and here you can take the 2 feasible ideas, then start to test it, whereby you will gain the feedback from them. Then you go back and see whether it is work or not. So it is you can actually refine the ideas that you actually got in the stage 3, in the stage 5. All right. So what happened here? The creativity and critical thinking happens. All right. So when you want to become an innovators, all right, when you want to become an innovative teaching, when you want to implement innovative thinking, I think that is the big idea of augmented high order thinking. So high order thinking is there. When you want to augment that, overall, educators and even the current students need to become innovators. So this is how the 21st century is run. All right. So when you have to have that, this particular tool will help you to moving towards that actually. Right. So let us look at what we can do here. Okay. This is what basically I will use when I'm actually using design thinking in where if when I have a problem to solve in my teaching and learning process. Let's say I have a problem in pedagogy, for an example. Okay, the way that I'm teaching is not been, it is not effective enough. Then it is important for me to know how to solve it. But how to do that in a creative and critical way? So design thinking is a very helpful tool for me to use. So it will start with the empathy. This is where you will understand the target group, empathize the issues and problems faced by the target group. So you can actually interview them. Okay, you may ask a few of your students. Okay, let's say about 100 of them. You can just message a few of them and ask, what is your real problem when you are actually learning through this online learning? Okay, so you can actually do that. So you can ask a few questions such as, what are the problems? Why the problems occurred? What really these particular students want? All right. So from there, you are able to craft a meaningful problem statement after analyzing what you have, the problems and the issues that you obtained at this empathy stage. All right. So define stage is to make sense of the information collected at the empathy stage. So it's basically to make sense, oh, this is the real problem. Okay. It is not that the students don't have internet connection. All of us have the internet connection. But the problem here is that they feel that the way the online learning has been conducted may be boring to them. So that is why some of the students will mute the video. Okay, we'll off the video, we'll mute the mic. All right. And the teachers just, teach online. And we don't know whether the students are actually listening to us or not. All right. So these are the things that we can do. So basically, don't think that design thinking just to solve a problem. No, it can be actually taken from a different context. All right. So today I'm talking about this because we are in education and we are actually facing these problems nowadays. So, that is why I'm giving this example. All right. So after you do this thing, then you go to the third stage where you're creating solutions to the user. You can use multiple techniques such as the brainstorming, mind mapping, and etc. in order to throw the ideas. And all right. So this is where when you throw the ideas, at the same time, you need to have the critical process. All right. When you are actually throw the ideas. So where the critical thing happen here, critical thinking happen here based on the empathy and define stage. All right. And it is important for us to, I already mentioned in the first slide itself, that in this 21st century, it is no use for us to work in silo or what we call as an individual person. We have to collaborate. So in this design thinking, in the third stage itself, it is been emphasized that, all right, we have to be a collaborative. We have to do this collaboration. So when we have a problem, let all of us to get together and solve the problem. All right. Throw the ideas together and implement together so that the ideas that you throw is something useful. All right. So that is the third stage. So the fourth stage is that to create a prototype, a storyboard, or even a proposal of the ideas. So you can start to implement it. So you try to see, okay, from the ideas that you throw in the third stage, let's say you have about 5. You can take the best 2. All right, you take the best 2 and implement it in the fourth stage. Then after you implement it, you get the feedback from the target groups on the ideas. You analyze the feedback. So after you analyze the feedback, in the final implementation, you can refine the ideas based on the feedback, choose one practical idea to be implemented, or integrate ideas to come with one good application or design. It means what? It means that maybe in the prototype stage, you feel that using social media plus Zoom is something useful for the student. So you can actually get together this Zoom plus YouTube, put it together and get the final solution. So what happened here? This is the process that happens where you will have the creative and critical thinking here. So this is an example of using the design thinking process in the context of the education here. All right. So the process of design thinking is a structured approach in generating and evolving ideas. Because in order to become creative and critical thinkers, we need to have ideas. But the ideas that we produce must be something that is useful for the user. So this is why the design thinking comes. And the design thinking actually will give you the way to think. All right. So where's the ideas will come? Ideas will come from the stage 1 and stage 2. So this is the thing that will push you to come with the ideas. So it will push you to come with the ideas. This is where you can see, hey, I also can actually get a lot of ideas. I also can become a creative person. But the ideas that you developed here, it will be there is a critical process will happen. So that is where the creativity and critical comes together. All right. And it is deeply a human approach. All right. Why it is deeply a human approach? Because you're not solve a problem according to your self-interest. Okay, what you can do. No. Basically what they want. What is their problem? Okay, what is the real problem of the user? So this is where the design thinking is all about. So you become a creative plus critical thinker, plus you have the human approach there. All right. So that is the thing. So you develop the ideas that are emotionally meaningful to those who are designing for. All right. So basically let's say you are designing the thing for the student. Okay. You want to innovate something. You want to innovate your pedagogy. You want to actually have a new strategic for your pedagogy, let's say. So it has become a meaningful to that particular student. That is very important thing. All right. Because as we know, whatever that students will come to our institution will be differ. All right. Every year, I am actually facing a different type of students, because 20 years ago, I have a different type of student, and today I'm having a different type of student. All right. So as a teacher, as an educator, we have to move along with that. All right. So these are the things that we actually can see here. So how to bring this to the student? You can actually make this as a component when they are actually trying to, when you ask them to throw ideas. All right. When you ask them to come with the new ways of solving a problem. So you can bring this to the students as well. So not only you using design thinking, but at the same time, design thinking can be used by the students. So when the students use it, they are also able to hold to this tool, hold of this tool that can make them to be creative and critical thinkers. All right. So elements of design thinking, again, I would like to revisit again. First of all, it is empathy for the context of the problem, whereby there is a creativity in the generation of the insights and solutions. All right, in the ideas creation, and critical thinking comes hand in hand with the creativity process to analyze and match solution to the context. So this is the important thing here. All right. So design thinking has the potential of being a successful tool in this context, which is the context of the education. So this is the important part here that we can have here. All right. So this is the process that we have. So what I can use design thinking for? Okay. First of all, you can use this thing in the challenges that we are facing in education nowadays. First of all, design and develop of learning experiences in the context of curriculum, in the context of creating new learning spaces, learning environment. That is what we are here today, what we are doing now. Because last time we are in the brick and mortar classroom, but now it's fully virtual classroom. Okay, we are only connected by the by the internet medium. School programs and experiences, how we want to change the process and tools that we are using. All right, and for the administrators of the institution, all right, when they want to come with the strategic goals and policies, they can use this. But again and again, sorry, when you're using these strategic goals and policies, it is important that, all right, whatever that the solution that you come, all right, you have to bring it to the higher order thinking. So when the higher order thinking comes, this is where the creativity and critical thinking will come together. So design thinking is all about you starting your journey with a creative and critical mindset. When you have this mindset, okay, this tool, okay, will helpful for you to survive in this 21st century. It will be very helpful for you to become innovators. It will be very helpful to become a good problem solver. All right. And very importantly, it will be very helpful for you. All right. So that whatever solutions that you give, whatever solution that you design and develop for, it is something that is useful for the stakeholders. All right. So this is what is design thinking is all about. It's a tool where it will push you to the world of creativity and critical thinking. So let me share my experiences of using design thinking, because I have actually not only used my design thinking in my classroom, but at the same time, I'm using this design thinking, okay, and giving some workshops and training to Malaysian teachers. Okay, let me just give you one example. This is one example where the design thinking process happened. Okay, the workshop is a very interesting workshop. I like to use the very colorful way here, because creativity is about colorful thing. Okay, the idea is about colorful. All right. So this particular innovation workshop for teachers, which I made, is for it's for the teachers from the state of Perak in Malaysia. Okay, because the education department would like to actually have chosen a few teachers to become innovators. Okay, so innovators, they have been chosen, a few of them. Then I gave a training on design thinking. It means on how they should think when they want to innovate their teaching and learning process in the classroom. Okay, that is one. The second one is I'm using this design thinking to unleash creativity and critical thinking among students. So this is one of the top school in state of in Malaysia. All right, and the students actually exposed to design thinking in order for them to unleash their creativity and critical thinking. All right, and at the end of the day, yes, they are able to come with ideas. They are able to become a creative and critical thinker. So from my study here, so after this particular workshop, after a few weeks, I went back to that school and give the problems to the students. To the surprise, okay, to my surprise and even the teacher's surprise, the students are able to come with good ideas. They are able to think better. So the teachers actually mentioned to me, Dr. Bala, actually my students are able to think better now, because last time when I'm asking how to solve a certain problem, they only can think from one dimension. But after the design thinking, they are able to think from multiple dimensions. So I say to her, to that teacher, that design thinking is that. Right? So that is the purpose of design thinking. And I'm very happy when the students are able to become like that. And this is for innovation workshop for special education teachers. This is the teachers who are teaching students with disabilities. As we know, students with disabilities have a different needs. You may actually teach students who are blind. You may teach students who are deaf. So those who are teaching deaf students and blind students will have a different problems and issues. So this design thinking workshop that's been that is being sponsored by the Education Department of State of Perak. They actually asked me to come and become a to facilitate the teachers on how to use design thinking so that they are able to come with innovation pedagogy strategies in their classroom. So what happened is another good experience also that I would like to share, is that after a few months, all these participants were participated in innovation competition for special education. And 70% of the participants of this design thinking workshop were able to get first, second, and third prize for each category, all right, for their respective category. All right, so that is a very wonderful thing that happens here. All right, so when they actually go to the national competition, they are able to become, they actually can show a better innovation when they're using this design thinking. So in nutshell, what happens when we're using design thinking here? All right, they become more creative and more critical thinkers. So that is why their innovations become something that is useful for the students. At the same time, it becomes very attractive to the other stakeholders to look into their innovations. So these are the a few experiences that I like to share with all of you on my design thinking journey in order to unleash the creativity and critical thinking among us. Right. So education is not the learning of facts, but training of the mind to think. This is, I would like to quote what is Albert Einstein said. I think Dr. Nalini also mentioned this in her welcoming speech just now. And creativity takes courage. It won't come easy. You need to go beyond, all right, your status quo in order to become creative and critical thinker. And with that, I will have to end up this my presentation before the Q&A session with a very thank you and nandri to all of you. Thank you. So I give back the floor to the organizer. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I request Dr. R. Muthulakshmi to handle the question and answer session.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir. There are a few questions in the chat box.
Yes.
With your permission, shall I read this question, sir?
Yes, sure. I'm ready to answer, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Prototype means it's like given your written work to the students. So once again, repeat.
Yes, please repeat it again, ma'am.
Yes. Prototype means it's like given your written work to the students.
Okay. All right. Prototype is the pedagogy strategies. All right. It's something that you will be having in the classroom. Let's say you're having a problem of teaching face-to-face with the students. So you are going to use, let's say technology to replace the face-to-face interaction or instruction. So the technology that you use, it is what we call the way that what I will say, that is one word that is to be precisely used. Otherwise, it will be something that will be have a different meaning there. I would say it is a mechanism. Yes, the mechanism that you're going to use, all right, that you will be using from the ideas that you got from the third stage of the design thinking. So that is what we call as the prototype. Whereas the work by the students is basically the output of the prototype that you have actually selected from the ideas that you actually made in that process.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Participants, you can post your questions in the chat box. Participants, if you want to get any clarification regarding the topic, you can post your questions in the chat box. Sir, one more question.
Yes.
Whether prototype is also called as strategy developed to solve the problem?
Yes, correct. That is the...
Yeah, the question asked by Nandu Makesh.
Yes.
Yeah. Sir, shall I repeat the question?
I think there is one question also, Doctor, from Suresh, if I'm not mistaken. They said, please define the differences between critical thinking and creative thinking. Should I answer the question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
all right.
Sir.
Okay, good. So what is critical thinking and what is creative thinking? Creative thinking is where you start to have new and original ideas about a problem. All right. So let's say you have a problem, you already have a few solutions, and the word creativity itself must be make sure is that particular ideas, all right, must be something that is feasible and original. Okay, that is creativity. What is critical thinking? Critical thinking is where you start to actually evaluate each ideas, whether it is feasible or not to be implemented, whether it is being able to be implemented in that particular context or not. So that is what we call as a critical thinking. So creative thinking will use your right side brain, and your critical thinking will use your left side brain. All right. So I really hope that I able to answer Mr. Suresh's question here.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Yeah. One more question is whether prototype is also called as strategy developed to solve the problem?
Yes, correct. I think I already answered the question just now. Yes, it is a strategic to solve the problem. It's a way of it, actually. It's one of the thing. So, but it always depends on the things that we are working. Let's say we are working from engineering point of view, then that prototype will be a system. All right. If you are talking from the education point of view, that particular thing will be as a pedagogy strategic. Okay. If you give that particular thing to the students, let's say it is on the a subject called, let's say, mathematics, for an example. So the mathematics solution will become the prototype here. All right. So I think that I'm able to answer the question just now.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Lakshmi asked one more question.
Yes.
Sir, would you please highlight a few strategies used in design thinking?
Few strategies used
Yeah.
Highlight a few
In design
strategies
thinking.
used. Okay. Actually, I would like to do that actually. I can actually do a lot of, highlight a few strategies that can be used. But due to the time constraint, I cannot actually mention, more. So that is why I'm only able to give one example only in the context of education. But it is not a problem, Lakshmi. You can actually Google it up, a few strategies, and maybe you can directly email to me so that we can have a better, a more, discussion about this. All right? Because if I want to highlight a few strategies used in design thinking, then it will take more time. Okay. So maybe the organizer can email my can pass the email address of mine so that they can we can have a discussion from there on.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Suman Sharma asked one question. Sir, how can we make our children creative thinker?
Okay. First of all, do not dictate anything. That means let them play, let them think out of the box. When they want to actually say something, let them throw it out. Okay, let them make mistakes. That is very important. In order to become creative, let them make mistakes. That is one. Second, let them go and discover a lot of things. Okay, you give them the room for them to discover. All right, and also give them the room for imagination for them. So these are the few strategies that I can say in order to make your children to become creative thinkers.
Thank you, sir, for your explanation. The final question: can we make all the students to be creative and critical thinkers? Is it possible?
Yes, it is possible. You have to give the environment into like that. All right. And as I already told you, creativity and critical thinking, it is something that can be taught and learned. So this design thinking, when you apply it to yourself or to apply it to the students, you can see that the students are able to become creative and critical thinker. It is just that this is our motivation, whether we want to make them to become creative and critical thinkers. So that's why I said we have to actually reduce the dependency on the book as our base for education. It is just become like a reference, but as the world is already progressing so well, and the information, it is not only from the book and from the teacher, it is everywhere now. So I think we have to give the opportunity for the students to actually learn that particular subject from a different dimensions. So from that, you can actually give a better environment for the students to become creative and critical thinkers. So it is not about what you know, but it is about how you know about it. That is very important. So it is not only teaching about what, but it is about teaching about how, about why. All right. So a simple question like why, okay, why it happens. Okay. If you ask the student about why it happens, it's already, okay, bring them for a higher order thinking. Rather than ask what, it is better to start to ask about why. All right. So maybe I can, maybe that is my simple answer for that question, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. One more simple question. How can we gain creative thinking?
Again, ma'am?
How can we gain creative thinking?
Okay. So as I already told, okay, yes, as I already told you, we can gain creative thinking when we have one tool to be hold so that we can become a creative thinkers. So what are the aspects that I mentioned that in my previous slide also. What are the things that we can, what we can do in order to become a creative thinker is that we must able to come with new ideas for our solutions. All right. Because today we are actually dealing with a new problem, then it must be a new ideas. You cannot solve new problem with the old idea. No way. Okay, that is actually against the rule of creativity and critical thinking. Okay, that is one. The second one is that try to actually always look for alternative. All right, alternatives for a problem, alternative for an issue. That is also a way to become a creative thinkers. All right, and able to able to synthesize the ideas to become one good idea. That is also one way of to become a creative thinker. Okay, I think I answered that question, Doctor.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. One more question by Suresh.
Yes.
Can we overcome our procrastination by using creative thinking?
Okay, procrastination is okay, delaying something. All right, it is highly depends on your individual. Okay, so creativity, it is nothing to do with you want to delay something or not. All right, somehow there is no any study related to that. Maybe if I found out about it, maybe I can give it to you. So right now I just put that answer in that way. All right, there is no any linking with that, because I can see when you are become so much creative, this is where I like to bring Suresh to critical thinking also. When you become so creative, what happens is that you will be delaying a lot of things. Why? Because your ideas are just generating without a solution. So in order to come with that one point of solution, all right, the convergence of the ideas, this is where the critical thinking must come together. So you cannot just have creativity, all right? Critical thinking also must come hand in hand, so that when you have the divergent thinking, where the creativity comes, the critical thinking will converge it, so that okay, you are able to come with the solution. So they may be okay, it can be a solution for the delay process that you mentioned just now. All right, I think I am able to answer the question.
Yes, sir. One more question is related to technology with creative thinking.
Yes.
The question is, sir, if have any new technological strategies is there for developing creative thinking and styles?
Okay, technology strategies, there is a few softwares that you can use, but when it comes to creativity and critical thinking, it is more on hands-on thing. All right, so it is more using the human brain and the skills. So a part of design thinking, I can give you a few other tools that you can use in order to unleash your creativity and critical thinking, such as 6 thinking hats of Edward Bono. That is one tool that you can use. Another tool that you can use is the Scrum. Okay, there is another strategies to become creative and critical thinking. But in usage of technology, I never cross of that thing yet, because creativity and critical thinking is more on hands-on thing that you're doing.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
One more question by Anusha.
Yes.
How this creative thinking becomes profitable in our life?
Okay. So when you have a lot of good ideas, all right, when you have a good ideas, let's say you can become Albert Einstein one day. Okay, when you have a good ideas, creativity and critical thinking, so you become innovators. So when you become innovators, what will happen? People will buy products from you. So you will become rich one day. So this is one way, okay, that creativity and critical thinking can be very profitable to you in your life. All right. So that is because she asked about life, so I talk about life. If she talk about education, then my answer will be different.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir, questions are coming. One more
Yes.
question.
Sure, no
by
problem.
Gauri C.
Yes.
If we can apply the creativity in all the situations, is it possible?
Yes, it is possible, because creativity, don't just say creativity, it must be embedded with the critical thinking as well. All right. So in all situations, let's say today you're not able to reach this particular webinar through Zoom. So what is the other alternative you have? YouTube. Let's say you don't have, okay, the internet connection. Okay, you must get the internet connection from somewhere else. So what you can do, you can wait until the webinar ends. Then you can go to where you can have that YouTube connection. Then you can watch this particular webinar through the YouTube recorded, video in the YouTube. So this is where the creativity comes. So every day in our life, it is about creativity. All right. What we want to eat today is also about creativity. When you want to cook, okay, when you're doing something, cooking, that is also creativity. All right. So creativity is in our daily life, basically. All right.
Thank you, sir. Next question. Is there any new study conducted related to creative thinking?
Yes, there are many actually. There are many, and still has been done a lot of research on higher order thinking in the context of creativity and critical thinking. I actually have 2 PhD students doing creative and critical thinking. One in engineering education, another one for chemistry education. So we are doing, creativity and critical thinking research, basically. So there are many, all right? And there are also many research on design thinking in education now, all right? So you can just go to, Google database, then you can able to get a lot of related research articles over there.
Okay, sir, thank you. And next question by Kalaivani Kannabiran.
Yes.
Which is the most important for the students to develop, critical or creative or design thinking?
Okay, so I already told you just now, I think maybe they have some misunderstanding about design thinking. Design thinking is a tool for you to develop the creativity and critical thinking. All right, so design thinking as a tool. It's a process for you to become creative and critical thinking. So if you ask me which one is important, design thinking is a tool. All right, creativity and critical thinking is something that we should have, that students should have. So I think that I already answered that question.
Thank you, sir. One more question. Is design thinking outcome is both creative and critical thinking?
Yes, as I already told you just now, the ideation, okay, from the empathy, the define and the ideation is about the the divergence of the thinking. That is where the creativity starts. So when it comes to prototype, even in the ideation process itself, you already start to put the critical thinking, okay, the critical thinking process there. Then it comes to the prototype and the test itself, there is also a creativity plus critical thinking. So both of that is actually come hand in hand, basically. All right. So that is what design thinking is all about.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Next question. What is the relationship among critical, creative, and reflective thinking?
Okay. So relationship between critical and creative, I think I already mentioned just now. Again, I like to also say that creative thinking is about the original and new ideas that you have. Critical thinking is whether your ideas is feasible or not, possible to be implemented or not. So that is where you are using your factual thing in order to to make sure that creativity and your ideas has been is something that is being able to be implemented or not. Okay, that is what we call as creativity and also critical thinking. But here you come with the reflective thinking. Reflective thinking is something that is you reflect back on what you actually has done. All right, you're reflecting back on what you have done, the process itself. So reflective is basically under the critical thinking here. All right, this is basically under the critical thinking, where you're actually reflecting back to your experience. You're reflecting back to the data that you have, all right, that you collected from the system that you designed, for an example. So this is what we call as a reflective thinking. So I think that is what we call as I think I answer this question, the relationship between creative, critical, and reflective thinking.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Which book you suggest for becoming creative thinker?
Okay, in order to inspire to become a creative educator. Okay, inspired to become a creative educator plus creative and critical thinker, you can actually buy the book of Sir Ken Robinson. Okay, Sir Ken Robinson. There are multiple books of it. You can just take out one of the book and read it. You will be inspired to become a creative and critical thinker by Sir Ken Robinson.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for your suggestion. And the next question: how to determine higher order thinking skills with schools children?
Very good. So this is a very important question, whereby it's very easy. When we want to determine whether the students are able to reach to the higher order thinking, is look at the Bloom taxonomy. So we have a 6 level of Bloom taxonomy. All right. If the students are able to think at the level of number 4 and onwards, or in Malaysia, we put it number 3. That means the Bloom taxonomy level 3, this is the application, synthesis, design, and evaluation. So if they are able to comprise from level 3 and above in the Bloom taxonomy, this is what we call the students are able to go for higher order thinking.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Participants want to clarify any doubts? Please ask your questions, post your questions in the chat box. Thank you, sir, for your patience and answering all the questions posted in the chat box. Thank you, Dr. Muthulakshmi. Gratitude makes sense of our past, brings peace for today, and creates a vision for tomorrow. I request Mr. R. Selvaraj, Assistant Professor of Education Computer Science, to deliver the vote of thanks. Please, sir.
Hello. Sir, நீங்க வரல? Sir Selvaraj, sir, please unmute yourself and deliver the vote of thanks, sir. Sir is having some technical issues. He'll join us in just a minute.
Okay, madam, no problem about that.
Nalini announce பண்ண சொல்லவா ma'am? Nalini, please give the other instructions, Nalini. Give the other instructions, Nalini.
Okay.
மேம் நாங்களே சொல்லிட்டுமா?
Ila, I think sir is joining, he says. He's got some technical issues, he says. He'll join, he says.
Yes, yes. An instruction to the participants, feedback link will be posted by the end of tomorrow's session. And those who have attended both the sessions of today and tomorrow only will be provided with e-certificates.
ஹலோ மேடம் வந்துச்சிங்களா? ஹலோ.
Yes, sir, you're audible, sir.
எஸ் மேடம்.
பேசுங்க சார், பேசுங்க. கேக்குது.
ஹலோ ஹலோ.
Sir,
கேக்குது. நீங்க
deliver the vote of thanks, sir. You're audible.
Good afternoon all. This time for vote of thanks. Respected and our most distinguished resource person of the day, Professor Dr. Bala Muralidhara Balakrishnan. Respected in our college principal Dr. M.S. Thilenayagi madam, and my dear beloved colleagues, non-teaching staff, and my dear students and all the participants. I deem it a great honor to propose the vote of thanks to all who have helped us in making this International Day 1 webinar such a resounding success. First of all, I would like to propose hearty vote of thanks to our resource person, Professor Dr. Bala Muralidhara Balakrishnan, Associate Professor of Sultan Idris Education University in Malaysia, for making excellent presentation and making this International Day 1 webinar on creative and critical thinking. Sir, really interesting and meaningful, wonderful, joyful, successful, and cheerful presentation, sir. Once again, I thank you, sir. And I would like to express our profound gratitude to our principal, Dr. M.S. Thilenayagi, for her presence in this first day international webinar. Thank you, madam. I would like to thank the organizing secretaries, Dr. Rita Rani Mandal, Assistant Professor of Lady Wellington IASC, and Dr. S. Komalavali, Assistant Professor of Lady Wellington IASC. I would also like to thank our beloved coordinators, Selvi V. Shyamla, Associate Professor of Lady Wellington IASC, Dr. Hemalada Kalamidi, Associate Professor of Biological Science Education, Lady Wellington IASC, Dr. T. Subhasini, Madam, Assistant Professor of Home Science, Lady Wellington IISc, Dr. S. Rama, Assistant Professor of Mathematics Education, Lady Wellington IISc, and Dr. I. Sasireka, Librarian. Thank you, Madam. Also, I would like to extend a special thanks to committee members and also in our college guest lecturer, Dr. J. Anida Madam, Dr. M. Nadia Madam, Dr. S. Nalini Madam, Dr. R. Venkatesan Sir, Dr. T. Tamilarisi Madam, Dr. R. Muthalakshmi Madam, Dr. P. Sumitra Madam, Dr. J. Muthukumari Madam. I thank all the participants for their active participation in the first day international webinar. As no program can become successful with a single person, so I extended my big thanks to our college students, dearest students, for the moral support. Thank you very much, students. Finally, I thank you guys for making the event successful with your contribution. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, sir. We wind up the session for today. We shall meet tomorrow at the same time to enlighten ourselves with the ways to improve students' participation with PBL, problem-based learning, by our resource person, Dr. Sukirno, Professor, Yogyakarta State University, Indonesia. Thank you, one and all. Again, an instruction to the participants, feedback link will be posted by the end of tomorrow's session. Thank you again. Have a nice day.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank
you, participants.
Sorry, madam.
It's okay.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you, Rita.
Participants can leave the session. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Madam.
Hi, Rita.
Ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank
Ma'am,
you.
Subhashini, ma'am, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Nalini.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Madam, என்னோட மொபைலே ஒர்க் ஆகல மேடம்.
We'll talk in person.
Shall
we leave the meeting now?
Yes, ma'am.
Because this is okay. I'll stop it. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for the support. Thank you, Subha.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Rita. Where is Komlavalli?
Recording pause பண்ணிட்டேன்.
ஓகே அவ்வளவுதான் மேம். அது இதுல அந்த யூடியூப்ல மட்டும் தான் போகணும்ல.
மேடம் யூடியூப்ல வரலையா?
Go to Zoom, leave the